New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 102, provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the governor by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 5 members having been appointed or have been confirmed by the New York State Senate affords the commission an ability to establish a quorum and to undertake action. This present meeting of the commission is now called to order. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty.
Here.
Peter Machete.
Here.
John Paklemba.
Here.
Barry Sample.
Here.
Todd Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Secretary, please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Given the absence of a designated chair, would the members like to select a person for the purpose of presiding over today's meeting?
I'd like to move that Commissioner Machete run the meeting for us.
Second that.
Second.
It's unanimous.
No, it wasn't.
On a 4-1 vote? Mr. Machete?
Yes. So I think the first item is consideration of the minutes for the meetings of January 26, 2016. Minutes of the commission meeting conducted on January 26, 2016 have been provided to the members in advance. At this time, I'd like to ask the members if there are any edits, corrections, or amendments. Hearing nothing, Madam Secretary, please let the record reflect that the minutes were accepted. And I think next is the report of the Executive Director.
Thank you. This afternoon, I'd like to provide an overview regarding the development status of 3 commercial casino projects and then discuss the National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Running on this end of the meeting hall, we'll actually have some slides and we'll have some other materials as we go through. So if you could direct your attention down that way. Since some of the problem gambling awareness presentation involves multimedia, we've added a few flourishes to the rest of the report as well. But starting with the casino development status, we'll start with Lago. Lago reports that they have been focused on concrete foundation work, and as of January 31st, over 4,000 cubic yards of concrete have been poured, which amounts to 96% of the overall amount necessary. The concrete work is scheduled to be finished this month. Steel erection commenced on January 16th, 1 day ahead of schedule. Overall, 60% of the necessary steel is on site, and 40% of that has already been erected. Exterior metal stud installation started on February 8th, and the masonry contractor started laying exterior concrete blocks 1 week later. That same day that the concrete blocks were laid, roofing started, and Lago is now on schedule to have the enclosed building completed during May. The building enclosed in May. From an MWBE basis, Lago is on target to exceed their 30% participation goal. Right now, over 47% of the contractors on site are New York State certified minority or women-owned businesses. Montrain has completed its mass site excavation, and retaining walls are now 90% complete. Utilities work is proceeding on schedule with an anticipated completion in early spring 2016. The precast garage component manufacturer is ahead of schedule, and erection should commence by May of 2016. Steel erection is anticipated for this upcoming August. The Reese Jones Golf Course redesign is also underway, with tree marking and surveying already completed. Cutting is expected to begin by March 31st. From an MWBE view, Montrain has a participation on contracts in excess of 30%, and they are now looking at their architect is now looking at MWBE designers for their hotel room design, and they're also seeking an MWBE landscape architect. Rivers reports that their foundation work continues on schedule, with steel erection already underway at the northwest corner of the facility. The foundation work is scheduled to be completed by the 3rd week of March, while structural steel will continue through mid-April. From an MWBE view, Norwood LaChase their general contractor, has awarded 88% of all subs with a utilization rate at 36.8%. This amounts to over $33 million in spending. Several commissioners have indicated an interest in conducting upcoming meetings in proximity to the construction sites so as to be able to undertake a site visitation. We've explored this possibility and should be able to accommodate regional scheduled meetings in May, June, July, or August. We will continue some discussions relative to that and see if we can settle on some dates and locations. Next item I would like to talk about is the Problem Gambling Awareness Month. March, as you know, is National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Since the Commission's founding, we have endeavored to undertake events aimed at raising awareness about problem gambling. Our first effort occurred in 2013 when we partnered with the New York State Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services and the New York Council on Problem Gambling to establish the Responsible Play Partnership. The Responsible Play Partnership was designed to address a variety of issues surrounding problem gambling, including ensuring that gaming venues comply with all rules and regulations and undertake proper outreach measures, reevaluating self-exclusion policies across the state to ensure consistency, and considering best ways to advance New York's long-term commitment to prevent and treat problem gambling. OASIS Commissioner Arlene Gonzalez-Sanchez and New York Council's Jim Maney have provided leadership that's been instrumental in ensuring their respective agencies' participation has been meaningful, and that the RPP and RPP working groups remain relevant to the evaluation and development of the state's approaches to responsible gaming policies. In April of 2014, under the direction of Chairman Mark Gearan, we conducted the state's first ever forum focused on problem gambling. The forum provided an opportunity for the Commission and the public to hear from experts in the field of addiction and psychiatry, gaming industry stakeholders, and problem gambling treatment providers. The information gleaned from this event has impacted how we approach our regulation of all gaming in New York State and is evidenced in the proposed problem gambling regulations that you'll be considering later this afternoon. Today we have with us Carolyn Hateman, who serves as the Commission's Director of Education and Community Relations. In that role, Ms. Hateman has been instrumental in the development of the Responsible Play Partnership and all attendant formal meetings, working group meetings, and programs conducted. With your permission, I'd like Carolyn to provide an overview of the Commission's and the Responsible Play Partnership's 2015 activities.
Thank you, Rob, and Commissioners. Last year, the Commission, in conjunction with the Responsible Play Partnership, took the lead of the National Council on Problem Gambling's Have the Conversation About Problem Gambling campaign and conducted the Let's Start the Conversation events around the state. We hosted events in Rochester, Schenectady, Loch Sheldrake, Sullivan County, and in Queens. These regional forums brought together for the first time all of the state's gaming operators, responsible gaming representatives, and problem gambling prevention and treatment providers on a region-by-region basis with the goal of developing a more coordinated, responsible gaming infrastructure. This past year, the Responsible Play Partnership supplemented its Let's Start the Conversation events with a series of public service announcements aimed at educating the public about problem gambling and increasing awareness of related prevention and treatment options available. The first PSA began airing statewide in August. A second PSA was holiday-themed, providing a responsible gaming message regarding underage play during the holiday season. And with your permission, I'd like to screen both of those PSAs.
For most of us, gaming is a fun, inexpensive form of entertainment. But for some New Yorkers, it's much more than that. It's a compulsion, an addiction that can lead to a lifetime of regret. Why take a chance with your life? Gambling addiction is real, and so is treatment. If you think that you or a loved one might have a problem with gambling, turn the odds back in your favor and call for help. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY.
That PSA ran more than 3,700 times across the state in August of 2015.
There are certain gifts that should be left to the grown-ups. Scratch-off lottery games are intended for those 18 and older. Please, responsibly.
That holiday-themed PSA ran more than 730 times on TV and 780 times on radio across the state between November and December of last year. To ensure the greatest coverage, we created each PSA in English and Spanish.
She said she got the coffee maker?
Well, the idea was gift appropriately, gift responsibly, as in a child's not expecting to doesn't appreciate what a coffee maker in the same vein they don't appreciate lottery tickets.
Understood.
These PSAs are also available for viewing on the Commission's YouTube page, and we have provided it to each of our licensed facilities for them to run on their closed-loop television broadcasts. A third public service announcement is in development, and this spot will continue the conversation theme, this time focusing on underage gambling. The new PSA will be specifically aimed at helping parents talk to their children about gambling. Given that research suggests a link between early gambling behavior and the associated risk of developing problem gambling issues later in life, we believe that this PSA is very appropriate. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. That brings us to this year, 2016. With the help of our RPP partners, the Commission plans to produce a video and make it available to schools and parent-teacher organizations to jumpstart that conversation among teachers, parents, and students. Work has already begun on the video, which should be completed this spring. Another major effort coming this year is our plans to finalize a statewide self-exclusion program. New York Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 111, provides that the Commission shall ensure the posting of signs and a listing of information designed to assist problem gamblers and to promulgate rules and regulations pursuant to which people may voluntarily exclude themselves from entering the premises of a licensed or enfranchised entity. As you may recollect from our previous discussions, New York's self-exclusion program is balkanized, a product of years of incremental growth between varying agencies. Self-exclusion programs exist at all video lottery gaming facilities, all thoroughbred and standardbred racetracks, all off-track betting corporations, and at each Indian gaming facility. But New York statute and gambling compacts place obligations for exclusion on the licensed facilities individually, which leaves a gap vulnerable for potential exploitation. We have heard from a number of problem gambling professionals that the state's existing program contains loopholes that make it possible for a patron to self-exclude from one facility but continue to wager at another facility down the road or in a different format from which they first excluded. Commission staff intends to plug this hole administratively by establishing a uniform self-exclusion policy across state licensed gambling venues, cutting through the red tape that exists for a person that's looking to cumulatively exclude themselves from gambling opportunities. We are working with all industry stakeholders and with the various Indian tribes and nations to establish a single point voluntary self-exclusion program. And for the first time, we're also seeking to extend self-exclusion to traditional lottery draw and instant games, where the threshold prizes must be claimed at a regional lottery customer service center. As you're all aware, lottery prizes that exceed $600 must be claimed through such a lottery customer service center. Upon implementation, when a self-excluded individual tries to claim this prize, they would be prohibited. They would be caught at that point at the regional center. Each year, the Commission has highlighted Problem Gambling Awareness Month with a printed message on each draw game ticket and through messaging at our electronic displays at lottery terminals. This year, we're going to go a step further, and the Commission is participating with the Responsible Play Partnership in a poster campaign aimed at raising awareness of Problem Gambling Awareness Month and raising awareness of the referral services available through the state's toll-free Hope Line. These posters will be distributed throughout the Commission's various divisions in video lottery and gaming facilities, at racetracks, and off-track betting corporations. This past Friday, we actually visited Batavia Downs and noted that the posters were already up and in place there. Finally, we want to call attention to the New York Council on Problem Gambling for hosting the National Council on Problem Gambling's 30th annual conference this upcoming July 15th and 16th. The conference will be conducted just 25 miles north of here at the Westchester Marriott in Tarrytown. This event will bring hundreds of problem gambling prevention and treatment professionals, as well as gaming facility operators from across the country to the lower Hudson Valley to learn and to share best practices. The Commission will be represented at 3 different conference sessions, each highlighting a different aspect of New York's emergence as an industry leader in this area of social responsibility. These endeavors and rules pending action later in the agenda underscore the Commission's commitment to promote responsible gambling in New York, not just in theory, but in practice. And in total conclusion, Carolyn will make her contact information available to all of you so that if you have any questions or you have any things that you think that we might be able to utilize as we move forward in our problem gambling awareness and responsible gaming program, we would be happy to hear, and Carolyn would love to interact with any of you relative to that.
Certainly.
Great.
Thank you.
Finished? You ready to go to rulemaking?
Sure.
So, New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 104.19, authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. As a result, the Commission will, from time to time, promulgate rules and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedure Act. And we have 7 items for consideration today. So, Mr. Williams, would you please outline the first item?
Certainly. As item 4A for Commission consideration is adoption of rules regarding the lottery subscription program. The rule proposal was published in the New York State Register on December 30th, 2015, meaning that the public comment period expired on February 16th. No public comments were received. The Commission's existing rules permit subscriptions. The amendments would update the subscription program by allowing the use of newer technologies and addressing limitations imposed by older, outdated processes. The staff recommends that the Commission adopt the proposed rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of rules relating to the lottery subscription program? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt this rule proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Anyone? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Williams, will you call the next item, please?
For Commission consideration is adoption of rules regarding lottery prize payment. The rule proposal was published in the State Register also on December 30th, meaning that the public comment period expired on February 16th. No public comments were received for this either. The amendment would add flexibility in the manner in which lottery prize payments are made. Current regulations are inconsistent, differing among ticket formats. This rule proposal would simplify payment and allow the Commission to offer alternative means of payment. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the rule proposal.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of the rules relating to the lottery prize payments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the rule proposal?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Williams, will you call the next item?
As item 4C for Commission consideration is adoption of a rule to ban the use of stanazanol. The rule was published in the December 30th, 2015 State Register, meaning that the public comment period expired on February 16th. 1 public comment was received. These proposed revisions would discontinue the permissive presence of threshold amounts of stanazanol, the only anabolic steroid that is neither endogenous to a horse nor already banned by the Commission. The proposal phases out a permissible threshold amount of this steroid, which was initially included as an exception to the general ban on anabolic steroids only because of a long clearance time of many months of this endogenous drug. As some horses may have lawfully been administered this drug well before racing and complied with the current permissive threshold, staff recommends that the proposed ban be scheduled to take effect 6 months after the adoption of the rule change. As mentioned, there was one public comment received. A veterinarian wrote that the use of the drug is a useful tool in equine veterinary medicine, and that used appropriately, it is medicine. Used inappropriately, it is a drug. The commenter suggested that stanozolol should be allowed and that horses should be tested for appropriate use. This proposal, which is consistent with the national rulemaking proposals and with the Commission's intended prohibition of any administration of an anabolic steroid to a horse that is actively racing, continues to permit the use of the endogenous anabolic steroids, which have a much shorter clearance time, to provide an efficacious therapy while the horse is restricted from racing on the veterinarian's list. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the proposed rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of a rule to ban the use of stanozolol? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt this rule?
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Sure, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Williams, will you call the next item?
Certainly. For Commission consideration is adoption of rules regarding suspension and revocation of a lottery agent's license. The rule proposal was published in the State Register on December 30th, 2015, meaning that the public comment period expired on February 16th. One public comment was received. Current regulations require a sales agent, as a condition of licensing, to comply with the licensing agreement and any rules, regulations, procedures, policies, and instructions promulgated or issued by the Commission. The lottery sales agent license agreement contains an obligation, as a condition of licensing, that the agents achieve a level of sales required by the lottery. The proposed amendments would make explicit that failure to meet such obligations is grounds for suspension or revocation of a sales agent license. The amendments would add other grounds for suspension or revocation, including violation of the licensing agreement, violation of the conditions of licensing, and non-cooperation with or frustration of a Commission investigation. To protect the licensed sales agent, the amendments would also require the Commission to notify the sales agent of a sales deficiency in writing and set forth a time in which the sales agent could illustrate satisfactory improvement. The amendment would also allow the sales agent to raise, as an affirmative defense to suspension or revocation based on insufficient sales, that the agent's sales performance is reasonably excused by factors outside the control of the agent, that the agent has taken reasonable steps to mitigate. Examples are extreme weather, natural disaster, flood, earthquake, war, discharge of hazardous material, blackout or power interruption, civil unrest, or other events and circumstances. Other revisions are proposed to eliminate duplication of statute, align the provisions for winding up terminated sales agent licenses with the preferred practice, and make stylistic changes. As mentioned, one public comment was received. The New York Association of Convenience Stores urged the Commission to add, quote, actions by state and local governments, end quote, to the list of enumerated unforeseen circumstances that might be grounds for an affirmative defense by a sales agent. The association explains that government action, such as allowing nearby gaming facilities, road construction, and increased taxes on the items offered at a convenience store, might drive patronage down in ways that a store owner may not be able to mitigate. The association also urged removing the requirement for a sales agent to take reasonable steps to mitigate. Staff believes that the proposed language, which includes, quote, other events or circumstances, end quote, among the enumerated factors beyond the sales agent's control, provides sufficiently broad language to cover exceptional circumstances and allow a sales agent challenging a suspension or revocation on such grounds the ability to state the sales agent's case. Staff also does not recommend eliminating the agent's duty to mitigate. The scope of the duty to mitigate will vary with the fact-specific circumstances, but eliminating a mitigation requirement which would allow a sales agent not to be diligent to use best sales efforts in the wake of unforeseen circumstances are contrary to the public policy goals of maintaining a robust sales culture. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the proposed rulemaking.
Commissioners, any questions on the adoption of rules regarding the suspension and revocation of a lottery agent's license?
Do you have any examples of ways that could be mitigated? The association objects to the requirement that they take reasonable steps to mitigate. What types of things would be considered as steps of mitigation?
I think that would be done in conjunction with the individual lottery marketing representative, who would put them on notice and then go work with them to see what can be done to actually raise or better address lottery sales. So there's not something that would be done on a uniform basis, but it would be a fact-sensitive basis depending upon what the issues are that are surrounding that particular lottery agent's low sales.
In their objections, did they mention any specific mitigation steps that they don't think they could achieve?
I don't believe they did at all.
The letter.
The letter was provided as part of the package, but I don't believe it's specific.
To follow up on John's point, do we have, like, they seem credible enough, the for instances they gave, but I just don't know if that's what they said actually happened.
Yeah, I think the argument that we have from a staff level is that all of the items that they articulated are something that would fall within the existing language that we had drafted for the proposed rule.
I understand that. I get what you're saying, but they went through a couple of sort of points. I was just going to ask, do we have experience with them? They seem to be not just pie-in-the-sky hypotheticals. It seemed like those were situations they had pointed to where you would have had to have dealt with it before.
Yeah, they didn't provide any enumerated examples of it.
Essentially, what you're asking is when a sale agent runs into difficulty, what type of technical assistance is provided?
Right, and they listed out some very specific sort of like that flood on upstate New York a couple of years ago in Allensville.
Well, that was ours. The association mentioned government action by allowing nearby gaming facilities, road construction, and increased taxes.
If you take the three things they've enumerated, two of them are completely different than the third. The third is road construction, right?
Right.
Okay, in a road construction scenario where all of a sudden all your foot traffic is being routed away, there probably are some technical things that could be done. You could have a covered walkway, allow some ingress and egress to the store, whatever. But what are we really saying? We're going to make it difficult for local authorities to change their taxing regimes so that these guys can sell tickets? I think you have to leave room for the tax.
No, I was
authorities to do
fine
what
with
they're
the
gonna do.
proposal. They had some very specific points. I was interested when I'm reading it, thinking, well, you seem to be speaking from some level of experience. What does that actually mean?
I think the main element is the concern over the potential expansion of gambling as we've seen over the course of the last 15 years in New York State, where there's been a creep of variety of different gambling that's been offered. And the concern is that somebody who may be well established might be affected by a gaming facility that's located in proximity to their location.
But the weird part of this debate is that what they seem to be saying is, okay, let's assume that creeping gambling alternatives have whittled away at the market, and therefore this agent is not hitting his sales target. Their remedy is to let him keep missing his sales target.
Right. That's correct.
It just doesn't seem very practical from anyone's point of view.
I think the intention of the program would be setting the targets mindful of the facts and circumstances of that particular location. So, for example, if a Native American casino opened across the street, hadn't been there before, that would be taken into account in setting the sales target goal in the first place.
Does any of this rulemaking address any of that, though? This all has to do with basically taking away the license, not setting the goal.
Correct.
Or requiring steps in mitigation.
Or requiring steps in mitigation, right? But either way, it has nothing to do with whether we can adjust the sales goal inside of an agency agreement for a guy whose circumstances may or may not have changed. I hear your point, but that's not what we're doing here.
But I guess what I'm suggesting is the point that the commenter made is probably better addressed in the sales goal setting portion of the process than the revocation process.
I agree with that.
Fair enough.
Like, what steps could be taken in that situation? If someone opened up a casino across the street from an establishment that was running quick draw, say, what steps could be taken in mitigation?
Yeah, and most likely in that situation, there would be no steps in mitigation. It would be an adjustment to the sales goal, given the new opportunities that are there.
But isn't that what the association is objecting?
The concern that, as Ed raised, is that's an adjustment that can be in the vendor agreement, not with we would never get to the point of pulling the license at that point. So in other words, if there was a change in their sales goals and they still were doing poorly, or perhaps it's no longer a location that's useful to have a lottery vendor, then that would be something that we would consider.
And that's something they could challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have a right to a hearing on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they would.
This is a way of sort of enforcing like a best efforts
Correct.
type of provision that says you've got to be trying to sell the tickets. If you're not, we're going to revoke the license. Is that
Yeah.
there?
Got it? Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, may I have a motion to adopt this rule proposal?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
As item 4E for commission consideration is adoption of a rule that allows for consideration of a plan of operation for the Jockey Injury Compensation Fund. The rule was published on January 6, 2016 in the proposed rule, State Register, meaning that the public comment period expired on February 22nd, 2016. One public comment was received. Recall that the Commission adopted an emergency rule effective December 22nd, 2015 to set forth a process for developing a subsequent year assessment plan for the Jockey Injury Compensation Fund. This emergency rule was mooted when the fund proposed an acceptable plan. At the same time as the emergency rule, the Commission also proposed a JICF assessment rule for standard adoption to create a standing structure for the Commission imposition of a default subsequent year assessment plan in the event that the JICF failed to meet the statutory deadline for plan submission and approval. As mentioned, one public comment was received. Assemblywoman Carrie Warner, who represents a constituency in Saratoga and Washington counties, wrote on December 22nd that the Commission should approve a plan submitted by the fund in lieu of the plan contemplated pursuant to the Commission's emergency rule. Ultimately, the Commission did so, mooting her concern. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt this proposed rulemaking.
Commissioners, are there any questions on the adoption of rules regarding the plan of operation for the Jockey Injury Compensation Fund? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the rule proposal?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The next two proposals each concern similar topics, namely problem gambling and self-exclusion. Given the similarity of topic, I think it prudent to discuss them together. Please note that a redlined version of the amendment was circulated this morning. It is this language that is being considered today. If you'll note, the language changes between what was circulated previously and this are very minor. As items 4F and 4G, for Commission consideration is proposal of rules that address casino licensee problem gambling plans and allow for patron self-exclusion. The former prescribes the contents of a problem gambling plan that each gaming facility licensee must submit for approval to the Commission. The plans require goals, procedures, and a timetable for implementation, as well as identifying an individual responsible for implementing the plan of operation. The proposed rules also require the gaming facility's problem gambling plan identify policies and procedures that would be implemented to combat problem gambling, including an employee training program. Quarterly and annual reporting to the Commission would be required in regard to the gaming facility licensee's problem gambling plan progress and results. The rules set forth procedures and restrictions on gambling facility advertising and signage, including the content and placement of gambling assistant messages. The latter proposal sets forth a process by which a person can request to be excluded from participation in gambling activities. The rules require that a person file a request for self-exclusion, which includes a length of exclusion sought, and releases any claims that could arise from a failure by the state, the commission, or the gaming facility licensee to withhold or restore gaming privileges from confiscation of the individual's winnings. The proposed rules would require the commission to maintain an official list of self-excluded persons and to notify promptly a gaming facility licensee's agents of additions or deletions from such list. The rules prescribe that a self-excluded person may not collect winnings or recover losses during the period of exclusion. A gaming facility licensee would be required to establish procedures and training for its employees to identify and manage any self-excluded persons found to be present on the gaming floor or involved in the gaming-related activities. Pre-proposal comments have been solicited from the 3 gaming licensees and the applicant for the 4th gaming license. They have also been solicited from the New York Council on Problem Gambling. Feedback from that process has been incorporated into the proposed rules. As mentioned, the Commission's self-exclusion program is balkanized, and staff intends to continue to work with all industry stakeholders and the various Indian tribes and nations to establish a single-point voluntary self-exclusion program. Prospective changes to this existing self-exclusion rules and requirements will utilize this structure as the bedrock. Thus, proposal of these rules are necessary to advance those efforts. Staff recommends proposal of each of the rules.
So let's take the proposals of each rule independently. Commissioners, are there any questions on the proposal of a rule regarding the problem gaming prevention and outreach? Hearing no questions, may I have a motion to propose this rule?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Are there any questions on the proposal of the rule regarding self-exclusion? Hearing no questions, may I have a motion to propose this rule?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So, sorry about that. Missed my cue. There are adjudications. Right? The next item on the agenda regards adjudication, and we have one hearing officer report for consideration today. My understanding is on the second one, the appellant has withdrawn his appeal.
That is correct. That's the owner of Beauty in the Pulpit has withdrawn the appeal, mooting today's consideration.
You want to outline the only case we have on then?
Certainly. On October 31st, 2014, the presiding judge at Vernon Downs Harness Track fined owner-trainer-driver licensee Joseph DiAgostino $500 for failing to conduct himself in a forthright and gentlemanly manner and for conduct detrimental to the best interest of racing at the track offices on August 29, 2014, in violation of several commission rules. Specifically, Mr. DiAgostino was alleged to have attempted to interfere with a criminal investigation into the larceny of horse testing samples from a track office and to have refused to leave the commission's offices at the track when requested, when another witness was being interviewed by the New York State Police. After Mr. DiAgostino appealed, a hearing was conducted on August 18, 2015. Mr. DiAgostino subsequently moved for summary judgment, alleging that deficiencies in the hearing transcript warranted dismissal of the sanctions. The hearing officer denied that motion in an opinion dated November 22nd. The hearing officer's final report and recommendations were delivered to the Commission Secretary on January 22nd, 2016. The hearing officer recommended that the fine be upheld. The Commission considered this matter at a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exemption of the New York Public Officers Law, Section 108.1.
The Commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined upon a 5-0 vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendation.
I just want to raise whether we ought to consider updating the rule that requires gentlemanly conduct, whether that language is still appropriate. Maybe it needs a 21st century
Okay.
rethink.
We will take a look at that.
So I think we're down to any new business, old business. First of all, any old business? We have no items scheduled as old business. Does anyone have old business to consider? Hearing none. We have no items scheduled as new business. Does anyone have any other new business to consider?
We should congratulate the New York bred who won the Group 1 in Japan, right? Monin. And we talked about it briefly. You said you're going to come back, look through the chain as to what that
Yes.
meant to New York.
Yes, I'll take a look at
It's
that.
a Group 1 race in Japan. He beat 14 other horses, so
Any New York bred that wins a Group 1 race anywhere in the world is
worth
doing
mentioning.
well.
Do you know what that purse was?
It was in yen, so.
Yeah, I figured you know how to translate. Oh, Schneider.
Yeah. Oh, here it is, a business setup. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll speculate it. They generally race for fairly
But
significant
how do the
purses.
purses in Japan compare to here? Are they generally higher for the different class, same class? or what?
Senses they are generally higher. They don't have as many big ones over there. The way
And the season's shorter.
season's
like
shorter,
3
it's more
months?
condensed. But it's a good question. A big number, I would assume.
I think run and won without Lasix too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? No. So we have the next meeting, the commission is scheduled for March 28th. So if you guys can please advise Ms. Buckley of your availability, so we can confirm that that date is good.
That's not one of the dates, Rob, that you were considering being elsewhere, right?
No, we're looking at that starting in April.
But since we're gonna be traveling, we might wanna think about those dates with Kristen now. Yeah, I'm not saying today, but we might wanna start thinking, like, if we're gonna do, somebody mentioned August, you probably wanna be in Saratoga, maybe, that's still
Any month
racing
is
season.
fine for Saratoga. It's a
Huh?
beautiful country.
I thought you,
All
okay.
12 months?
Let me shut up then, I don't know.
No, you know you're right.
No, August
You're
is,
100%
it's a
correct.
good place to have it in August.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
there, you mentioned, I don't know, the other month, May, I think it was June or August, something like that.
I don't think we're allowed up to Geneva till at least May, right?
Yeah,
It's a mild winter.
but I'm just saying, we might wanna think about schedule around that now, cause we got travel time.
For
Some
sure.
people are gonna have to do overnights to do it, and whatnot.
For me, and I'm sure all of you, the sooner we know, the
Yes.
better,
Yeah.
you know, for planning.
Ms. Buckley, will you coordinate and see
We'll have a
what's the
meeting.
appropriate time and location for the
We
three
should have all
different
bunch
meetings?
of meetings in Mark's office.
That, I think
It's right
that
next to Largo.
concludes
Oh,
today's
really?
published agenda.
What else is up there?
Do any commissioners have items they'd like to present for consideration?
No.
No, thank you.
Sorry.
Hearing none, this
Travel
meeting of
plan.
the New York State Gaming Commission
I'm gonna
is
spend
adjourned.
my spring in